It began with a silence that hung heavy in the studio, the kind of silence that tells you something important is about to be said. Anthony Scaramucci sat across from Franklin Foer, the journalist who had spent years digging into the life of Joe Biden. The cameras were on, the microphones glowing red, and the world was waiting for answers. But instead of opening with statistics or political talking points, Foer leaned in, lowered his voice, and said, "The thing most people are missing about Joe Biden isn't political at all, it's deeply human." That one sentence changed the whole tone of the conversation. Scaramucci paused, almost surprised, and asked him to go deeper. And from that moment, the story that unfolded wasn't about campaign trails, policy battles, or approval ratings. It was about a man defined by loss, resilience, and a quiet strength that most of the world never sees. Franklin began with Biden's early years, a boy with a stutter who often sat in class unable to get through a sentence. The other kids would laugh, and some teachers, impatient, would dismiss him. Yet Biden never let the humiliation define him. He practiced speaking in front of a mirror, memorizing poetry, and reciting it to his reflection until the words flowed. "That's the first lesson," Franklin said softly. He learned early that setbacks weren't roadblocks, they were challenges to be overcome. Anthony nodded, visibly moved. So when people mock him now for stumbling over words, for being imperfect, Franklin cut in. Exactly. They don't realize that his imperfections are the very thing that made him empathetic. He knows what it feels like to be underestimated, to be seen as less than. And that shaped the way he treats people. The conversation shifted to 1972, when Biden, barely 30 years old, had just been elected to the U.S. Senate. It should have been the greatest triumph of his young career, but weeks later, tragedy struck. His wife 𝗕liche and their baby daughter were killed in a car accident, leaving him a widower with 2 young sons clinging to life in the hospital. Franklin's voice caught as he recounted how Biden nearly walked away from politics altogether. He was ready to give it all up. Imagine that, the weight of the world telling you that you're destined for greatness, and the weight of your heart saying it's all meaningless without your family. Anthony leaned back, silent for a moment. Most people don't carry scars like that into public service. They carry ambition. But he carried grief. The two men reflected on how Biden commuted daily by train from Delaware to Washington, not because it was glamorous, but because it was the only way he could tuck his kids into bed at night. That detail struck Anthony the most. That's what people miss. It wasn't about politics. It was about being a father who refused to abandon his children when they needed him most. As the interview deepened, they spoke about Beau Biden, the son who grew up watching his father.